D-Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, and Adam Vingan here with you. Derek and Adam, live in studio. I don't know why I referred to myself in the third person there.
Ain't nothing wrong with that. You can do it every so often.
That's what happens when you get a new show.
Willie Donick, yeah, I suppose. Willie Donick still in Edmonton, but he gets to leave tonight after the Predators face the Edmonton Oilers. Connor McDavid going for point number 1,000 tonight. I would bet that that's going to happen. I just have a feeling. But game starts at 8. Puck drop at 8. Pregame at 7. Right here on 102.5. 106.3 The Game. Willie, I don't know what you call someone from Edmonton. Maybe an Edmontonian, perhaps.
It's a good question. It's kind of like
because you are one now,
arguing over the San Diegans. You know, I'm not exactly sure how they do it here.
San Diego.
Yeah, Connor McDavid. You can't beat Ron Burgundy. You just cannot beat it. But Connor McDavid, there's a good piece in The Athletic that I believe he already has 5 scoring titles. And he's had a year or two that got completely short-circuited by injury. He's got 999 points. And he's about to turn 28, I think. So he has gotten to 1,000 incredibly quick. He averages about 1.7 points per game. So he has more games where he has 2 or more points than he has 0 points. So, you know, it's a very, very likely thing that he gets to 1,000 tonight. I think if you have what the Predators had, the one game they played against McDavid this year, where he gets 1 goal and you hold him to that, you probably say if you can hold him to 1 point, Draisaitl to 1 point, you like your chances. But they have not played well in the 2 games against the Oilers this year, and they haven't played well against the Oilers in the last 4 or 5 years.
If you are a betting man or woman, I would put down a shekel or two on Connor McDavid getting to point number 1,000 tonight against the Predators. Connor McDavid has 7 points in his past 2 games and has factored on 6 of the Oilers' past 7 goals. He has also found the score sheet at each of his past 14 games against the Predators. So, seems like a safe bet, but we'll see.
I don't think you're going to get great odds of holding it to 0 on that. So you better be putting down. I don't know how that works, but
I don't know either.
More than just
your odds are pretty good.
Yes. By the way, Alex in Montreal does confirm that it is indeed Edmontonian. So Willie is
okay.
Willie is a Edmontonian now.
An
honorary Edmontonian. But we will talk more Predators later. Elliot Freeman of Sportsnet 32 Thoughts podcast will join us at 1:00. We'll get into the Predators and the NHL at large then. But speaking of the Predators, actually, the Titans and Predators, they spent a lot of money in free agency in their respective off seasons. The Titans spent close to $230 million in free agency in the offseason. The Predators on Stamkos, Marchessault, and Shea spent nearly $110 million in free agency.
That's a lot.
It is a lot. That's a lot of shekels. And the free agent acquisitions for both teams have not worked out well so far in their respective seasons. But let's focus on the Titans for now. And one specific, well, actually, this is not a free, no, that just blew up my whole intro because he was not a free agent acquisition. Just forget everything I just said. Blah, 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 blah. We're going to talk about L'Jarius Sneed, who was not a free agent acquisition. He was a trade acquisition. My bad, everybody. But still.
An off-season acquisition.
He was an off-season acquisition.
He was a big investment. Let's say that.
Exactly.
Yes, that's why we're a team. Clearly, that went over my head when I was doing my research today. But anyway, L'Jarius Sneed, trade acquisition, big acquisition, has been out of the lineup for what, about a month now with a quad injury. And
including the bye week. Yes.
yes. So he hasn't played. I think the last game he played, if I'm not mistaken, was the game against Indianapolis.
Yes.
So it's been a minute since we've seen L'Jarius Sneed on the field. We did get an update, if you could call it that, from L'Jarius Sneed himself yesterday. It was a bit of an awkward, like informal news conference, but at least we heard from L'Jarius Sneed. This is L'Jarius Sneed in the Titans locker room yesterday answering questions about his injury status.
Has it surprised you how long it's been?
Yeah, very surprising.
You disappointed?
Very disappointed.
How much of a difference could you be making if you're out there?
I'm not sure because I'm not out there.
When it first happened, it felt like kind of a day-to-day thing. I guess how long did it take for you to get that MRI in and realize that it was going to be more extended than you originally thought?
I knew it was something,
Immediately you felt like it was something?
I immediately felt it was something. Just tried to stay. Of course, but things happen.
Yeah.
What has the process been like for you since
It's been tough. It's been hard because I want to be out there to help my brothers, my teammates, and any kind of challenges for me that I can't get out there. Coming to my first year into organization, trying to make a name for myself here, get respect here. It's been kind of challenging, frustrating.
That was L'Jarius Sneed. It wasn't easy to hear L'Jarius Sneed in
All those
that
people
clip.
making all that damn noise in the
Yeah.
background. They need to
You got a
hush.
bald head.
Exactly. Don't they know he was doing an interview?
Right.
Gosh.
But
Rude.
not a lot of information
Mm-hmm.
from L'Jarius Sneed in that informal news. It's not really a news conference. It was a scrum. Not a lot of news out of L'Jarius Sneed. Kept it tight-lipped.
Well, I thought the news was that he said he's really not doing anything on the field.
That is true.
Yeah.
So, yes.
So that doesn't mean so that means he's probably not real close to playing.
And to confirm, I just wanted to make sure I was right because I did get something wrong earlier. He has not played since that game against the Colts, the 20-17 loss here on October 13th.
Well, that was a month ago, right?
Yeah, so exactly. It was a month ago yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And it does not appear, as Willie mentioned, that L'Jarius Sneed is any closer to returning to action. Now, Willie and Derek, you had L'Jarius Sneed on this program shortly after he was acquired in a trade. I just want to make sure I got that right again. In a trade from the Kansas City Chiefs. And there were a lot of questions about his knee because L'Jarius Sneed last season, despite appearing in 16 games for the Kansas City Chiefs, started 16 games, played 98.3% of the snaps in those 16 games, did not really practice last season, sort of a load management type thing with the knee injury. I remember you guys tried to pin him down. I believe, Derek, you said, give Titans fan L'Jarius Sneed, tell Titans fans everything's okay with your knee. And speaking about yourself in the third person, as I did mistakenly at the beginning of the show, he said, Titans fans, you have nothing to worry about with L'Jarius Sneed's knees. He's not dealing with a knee injury. He's dealing with a quad injury. But I'm getting a vibe that people, particularly one person, and I'm going to give you a wild guess who that person is, thinks that L'Jarius Sneed is milking this injury and perhaps is closer to playing than he is letting on. So when I hear people upset about L'Jarius Sneed's lack of availability so far this season, I mean, it stinks. Don't get me wrong, because they invested a third-round draft pick. They traded a third-round draft pick, which they certainly could use, considering how bad they are, in Sneed. And you want to see Sneed on the field. He hasn't been on the field, but it's a different injury. So I'm not as bent out of shape about it. Am I wrong not to be so bent out of shape about it?
No, you're not wrong. You can be concerned with, when is he going to be available? But as long as it's not the knee, you can take a sigh of relief, because if it was the knee, then we would be talking about a whole different issue, and it would all fall back on Rand and the scouting department. Like, y'all should have known based upon his practice habits in Kansas City. They told you that he had problems with his knee, but luckily it's not his knee and it's his quad. So, and those things are tricky. I mean, you can assume someone is milking an injury all you want to, but unless you're that person dealing with that particular injury, then you just never know. He doesn't come off as someone that milks an injury. This dude was hurt. Basically, he was limited in practice all last year, but he still managed to play, which tells me he's not a guy that's just going to sit out just because. He wants to be out there on the field. He wants to be a part of helping, changing, what's going on. That's the worst part about this, and I think people don't understand this. When you haven't been in those situations, the worst thing for to happen to a player is you pay him a lot of money that year, you bring him in as a free agent, and then he gets hurt. That is the worst thing. You know how bad he's trying to get back on the field? He's probably doing any and everything he can to get back on the field because he knows they just paid me all this money. The expectation was I come in here and I help change what's going on. And now I can't even do that. And the longer I sit out, the more and more people are going to start to speculate on, is he really hurt? Or is it the knee? Is it really the quad? Those are things that players think about. And players don't want to be in a situation like that. So they try to, as much as they can, especially after getting a huge contract from another team, not just your team, but another team, and they're bringing you over for a specific reason, like to be their shutdown corner. The last thing you want to do is get hurt, because now everybody's saying was he worth the money? You knew he was hurt coming in. Now he has another injury. So those are the things you don't want to hear. So you try to get back on the field as quickly as possible. So I don't think he's milking this. I just think one thing that all players do now, this is not yesteryears where I can have a torn rotator cuff, a broken scapula, but I'm still playing the next half, or I'm still playing in the next game. They don't, the guys nowadays and the girls nowadays, they think about life after football. They think about their body after football. And they're like, listen, unless I can fully help in the capacity I know I should be helping in, me getting back on the field is not doing anyone any favors. Actually, it might make things worse because I might re-injure an injury that is not fully healed. So these guys and girls think about that stuff. That's why they spend so much money in the offseason on their workout regimens.
I have an interesting. I have a perspective on this, on the specifics of it. See, what I see here, I see a team that everybody's looking to pile on because they haven't been successful. True? Would we all agree that there's a lot of negativity? You've got a guy who's making a lot of money who hasn't played great. He's also an easygoing guy. He doesn't seem like he's Mr. Engaging when he does the media stuff, although I do think if you listen closely, he does answer all the questions. He just doesn't give you a lot of elaborate fluff and stuff when he does it. But he does have kind of a laid back presence to him. And I think you put all that together, and I think you have a suspicion with some of those questions from some of the people that are like, are you milking it? Could you be pushing it and playing through this injury? And I don't think that's fair to speculate that. I have had twice in my lifetime pretty nasty knees to the thigh, which is very, very similar to a helmet to the thigh. I can imagine it's probably not as bad as a helmet to the thigh, but if it catches you just right, it messes you up a lot worse than I think people realize. I think people hear, hey, he's got a thigh injury. How could he be out for a month with a thigh injury? Don't you think that's a little bit of what we're hearing here? Adam, is that fair?
I think so.
Don't you think it's like, hey, we're paying this guy all this money. How can he not push through a thigh injury?
Because those are the same people.
That's what I'm reading between the lines, is not really giving the guy a benefit of the doubt for the injury.
But
and
that's people
I
who
believe,
never had a quad
if
injury.
I'm correct, exactly, and I have, and I would say also, is there a little bit of suspicion that they're hiding? Did I not hear Jared speculate that? Well, maybe it's not even they could be hiding it. If it was the knee, could they be telling us it's something different? I believe that line was out there. But a thigh injury can really mess up your mobility, and it can take a long time to heal. And there's an example I brought to the table to you yesterday, Adam, that you covered and I
Yes.
covered in hockey. And if you take a look at the injury, it doesn't look like much. In fact, there's the other part of this equation is
And you're talking about
there's
the
no
Johansson
footage.
injury.
Right.
You're
Ryan
talking about the Ryan
Johansson's
Johansson
injury against the Ducks in the Western
Right.
Conference Final in 2017. He went up against the boards. I believe, Willie, it was Josh Manson was the defenseman for the Ducks, now with the Avalanche, if I'm not mistaken, who was battling with Johansson on the boards and looked like it was just a knee to the thigh in the midst of a board battle. Johansson didn't. I can't recall if he left the game after that or attempted to play.
No, he tried to keep playing.
Right.
And that's the thing. And I believe, see, this is the other part. And I don't,
Mhm.
I hope the Titans clarify this because they need to have L'Jarius Sneeds back. If you look at the footage of when Johansson got hurt, you would never look at that and say that guy ended up in the hospital
Mhm.
and he was done for the year. It was a very dangerous situation that became an emergency when it started to swell up because it caught him just right. And everything is a little bit different, but nobody has seen the footage of when Sneed took the helmet. That fuels more speculation of, hey, when did this happen? You know, it doesn't look bad. It's not, you know, if a guy gets carted off, you wouldn't question anything. But nobody can really figure out when it exactly happened in the Colts game. But I can just tell you that those things can be serious. And so I'm just saying, give the guy the benefit of the doubt. And I think this is where communications would be important for the Titans to say, this guy's not dogging it. This guy has got a legit injury that has taken a lot longer to heal than we initially thought. He's working as hard as he can to get back out there.
No, listen, for those that think, you know, oh, it's just a quad injury. You've never had a quad injury. You've never been hit full speed by a grown man with a helmet to the quad with no pad. You've never been hit like that. So if you've never gone through that, then it's hard to truly speak on whether the guy is milking it or not. Again, from my experience, listen, I go back and I look at the play that I played, you know, when I was with Baltimore and we played the Houston Texans. It was a routine tackle. He took my legs out from underneath me, going for a pass up high. Took my legs out from underneath me, and I just fell. It didn't look bad, but I tore a rotator cuff, dislocated my shoulder, and broke my scapula. Just because it doesn't look bad doesn't mean the injury isn't bad. So don't base it upon how it looks, people. Because looks can be deceiving, just like a hard hit sometimes look like, ooh, and then you go back and really look at it and slow it down, and it was like, that wasn't really a hard hit. It just made a lot of noise. It really wasn't a hard hit. So for those that are saying, well, it didn't look bad, you don't even know what you're looking for to know whether it looked bad or not.
I can't recall the play that had happened, and I asked Teron Davenport, who would know,
Yes.
and he said that he does not know the exact play which this injury occurred. So,
but that's the point is you can, if after that happens, you can try to run it, you know, walk it off, run it off, and hope that it loosens up because it doesn't swell up right away. I still have,
and maybe that's why he got beat
leg.
on the Willie. Maybe that's why he got beat on the deep route because of the quad injury. Has anybody ever thought about that too?
Yes, Ryan Johansson was hospitalized after that play. He continued to play in that game. It went to overtime, and they lost in overtime. He played in the overtime, and then he went to the hospital after, and he missed. It took him 3 months to recover. So all I'm saying is, if you're trying to be Mr. Sports Medicine out there or Mr. Sherlock Holmes, by the way, there's a great restaurant called Sherlock Holmes here in Edmonton. But if you think you're Mr. Detective and I suspect that he's milking the injury, he doesn't want to play. I think you need to, you know, study up a little bit more. And I do think the Titans would do him a good service to try to, because it shouldn't have to be Sneed. He answered the questions. There's nothing wrong with how he answered them. I mean, Paul Kuharsky's question of, what difference could you be making if you're out there? I love his answer. I don't know. I'm not out there. I mean, it was kind of like, you're letting read between the lines. You're letting your teammates down. It's trying to get him in a gotcha moment, and he didn't bite, to his credit.
615-737-1025. What are your thoughts on L'Jarius Sneed's quad injury? We'll take your thoughts on that on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com at 615-737-1025. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 102.5, 106.3, The Game.
November is here. And now you're thinking about the big game. So think about our partner Zen Sports. The new sports book in Tennessee has launched a brand new sweepstakes for all its Tennessee customers. The Big Game Sweepstakes, where you could win a grand prize of 2 tickets to Super Bowl 59 in New Orleans or $10,000 cash. Which one are you going to take? I'm not going to tell you which one I would take, but both of them are big. And what's more is Zen Sports will also award 50 additional prizes, which include 2 tickets to any Tennessee sporting event or $100 cash. Want in on the action? You can earn multiple entries every day just by betting on Zen Sports app. For every bet you place, you will earn 1 entry, and for every dollar you bet, earn an additional entry, like parlays. Earn double the entries on every parlay place. So what are you waiting for? When you sign up for Zen Sports, you'll automatically earn up to $100 no danger first wager. If your first bet loses, you'll be reimbursed for the amount of your bet up to $100. Start betting with Zen Sports and download their app today. That's Zen Sports, where betting just got better. And remember, gambling problems, call 1-800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 years or older to bet here in Tennessee.
Is he milking this or not? Do you think that this is a bad sign?
Yeah, and I'm going to be nice when I say this. I mean, I don't know. I just think that this is the question that needs to be answered. That if they're 2-7 right now, what if they were 7-2? Would he be playing if he was nicked up? That will be the question that he would have to answer. So just kind of looking at the situation. I mean, he hasn't played in 5 weeks. I mean, I know that the thigh bruise. Me and Derek talked about it on the pre-show game last week. That when you do get a thigh bruise, that joker does hurt. But and this is just my opinion, and I respect Mr. Snead, but I don't think it's going to take 5 or 6 weeks for you to come back. I just think if the record was a little different, I think he might probably play in this game as opposed to them being 2-7.
That was Chris Sanders on Stillman and Company.
For all those who want to play Inspector Gadget, this is for you.
This takes me back.
It takes me back to cartoon for one, and then the movie action.
Yes. But Derek, I was a bit surprised to hear that response from Chris Sanders, who I like to think of as sunny side up.
Yeah.
Chris Sanders. Maybe he likes his eggs that way. I don't know. But when I heard Chris's response to Jared's question about Snead and wondering aloud if perhaps Snead would be playing through this injury if the Titans' record was much better, it kind of surprised me. What did you make of Chris's answer there?
Listen, that's Chris's opinion. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion. If this team was 7-2, would he play? We never know because the team's not 7-2. Just like they had asked, Snead yesterday, do he think he would make a difference if he was out there? He was like, I'm not out there, so I can't answer that question. If I answer it, then it's like now it's saying, okay, if I was out there, then the team would be much better. And I'm the reason why they're not better, or I'm the lone reason why they will become a better defense or better team. And that's not the case. So he answered the question perfectly. I just look at this from this standpoint. When we start questioning the sincerity of someone's injury or the severity of someone's injury, we start questioning that, then we are really pulling at straws. We're really trying to, because we've talked about everything ad nauseum, and now it's like, okay, let's ride this one for as long as we possibly can. Listen, I'm not L'Jarius. If they were 7-2, could he have possibly tried to give it a go and play? Possibly. But I would also tend to think that if you're 7-2, wouldn't you take time to heal yourself before you get out there? Because you figure we're 7-2. We're good. They don't need me looking at, a few games looking ahead of. These are, if you are a good team and you're 7-2, because if you're 7-2, you're a damn good team. So if I'm thinking, if I'm a player and I have a thigh bruise, I'm thinking, well, you know what? Maybe this is the time I can take some time off because we got to lead. We are 2 or 3 games up on the next closest person in our division. So we got a little leeway here. So maybe I can take a little bit more time to let my quad heal instead of if we're in the thick of things and our record is what it is now, or it's 4-4, something like that, and we're still in the thick of things and every game is crucial, then maybe I just may jump back in there without taking into account that, hey, I'm really not ready and I could possibly re-injure this thing again. So when you're in a situation like that, you're more likely to get back in it quicker than if I'm 7-2, 8-1, and I'm 3 games above the next, competitor in our division. Okay, I can take some time off. I can sit back and let this thing fully heal because we got this. But if we're in the thick of things, I want to get out there. I want to help. If we're losing, I want to get out there. I want to help change our fortunes. I don't know if people looked at it from that standpoint either. Just take time out of your day, Jared, or anybody else. Think about it from that standpoint. Being a competitor, playing in professional sports or collegiate sports. Wouldn't you think that if I'm 10-0, 9-1, 7-2, whatever, I got to win a record, I get injured, I feel I can really make sure when I come back, I'm ready, because why? We are a winning team. We're a good team. And losing me, yeah, it may hurt, but there's still a bunch of good players on this team, and we're going to continue to win. So I can sort of, coaches tend to say, hey, listen, we don't need you this week. Sit another week out. Make sure you're fully healthy. 2 weeks, we're going to need you because we play X team. All right, cool, coach. If we're in a battle each and every week means something, don't you think I would rather be out there than if we had a 7-2 or 8-1 or 10-0 record or a 9-0 record? Just think about it from that standpoint. I think we're so quick. Some of us are so quick to find fault in things that we don't think about this. We don't think about the whole landscape. We're just looking at it from a micro standpoint instead of looking at it in the macro.
Paul Kaharski tweeted yesterday that L'Jarius Sneed gets $40,000 per game active in roster bonuses. So he's lost $160,000 missing the past 4 games. Said he's not done anything on grass in rehab for quad yet. So odds are high he's not playing versus the Vikings and will lose another $40,000. Now, L'Jarius Sneed has $55 million in guarantees and $44 million fully guaranteed at signing, according to Paul Kaharski. So $200,000 is a small drop in the bucket compared to what L'Jarius Sneed is making and what he has made in his NFL career. But he is losing money by not playing.
Repeat that again.
So according to Paul Kaharski,
Mm-hmm.
Sneed gets $40,000 per game active in roster bonuses. So by missing the past 4 games, he's lost $160,000. We assume he's not going to play on Sunday against Minnesota, which means he'll lose another $40,000, which is $200,000 he's missed by not playing these past 5 games.
But is it truly him losing the money? Because it really never was his. It was predicated on whether he plays a percentage.
Now that's a good question. I'm just going off of what Paul tweeted. But Paul also said that L'Jarius Sneed's contract is 4 years, $76.4 million, $55 million in guarantees, $44 million fully guaranteed at signing.
And those are just incentives. If you're active, those are incentives. So when we start talking incentives, players, it's like, yeah, I want the incentives, but if I don't get it, it's not like that was my money and they took it back from me. That was just going to be extra money they gave me if I reached these certain milestones. So to us, yeah, we would like the money, but it's not like I'm gonna rush back out there because I gotta get that $40,000 or $50,000. It was never ours in the first place. It was only ours if we did this. Now the guarantee, that's mine. No matter what, no matter if I get hurt or not, that money that y'all guarantee me is mine.
Dave is on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, with a comment on L'Jarius Sneed. Dave, thank you for calling. Please go ahead.
I would like to weigh in from the perspective of someone who's had a serious quad injury.
Sure, go ahead.
Back in 2005, I tore the entire quad tendon off the top of the kneecap. And the surgery put me back together. But there are things about the knee and how it behaves after an injury like that make it hard to move forward doing the same kinds of physical activities. I've been a martial artist for more than 35 years at that point that I had that injury. And
Dave, your phone cut out. Thank you for calling,
sorry,
Dave.
What Dave was alluding to, I think would have been really good to hear. But
I am always wary, though. This is no disrespect to Dave, but I'm always wary of when someone calls in and says, "I suffered a similar injury." Mm-hmm. I'm assuming Dave. I don't know Dave. Mm-hmm. I'm going to assume that Dave is not a high-level pro athlete like L'Jarius Sneed. So when I get it. When you suffer an injury and you can relate to an injury that an athlete suffered, you can offer some perspective, but it's not apples to apples.
No, it's not apples to apples. But if I'm going by what Dave said, if he's a martial arts, is he a teacher, or it's just that does he train in the martial arts? Which one is it? If you're a teacher, then obviously it's a little bit more rigorous than just being an actual student, even though I'm sure the student part is rigorous in itself. So, but you are right, Adam, in the sense of, even if you are, doing it martial arts at their highest level, it's still not comparing apples to apples because it's a little bit different in a sense. But again, man, y'all just don't I'm not sure people truly understand how bad these injuries can be. And I'm not talking about the day of the injury. I am talking about hours after the injury. You can get hit in the quad, you can twist your ankle, you can fall on your shoulder, whatever. But during the course of the game, your adrenaline's flowing, you got some of that feel good juice in you. And I'm not talking about alcohol, people. I'm just, feel good juice. I mean, a shot or whatnot for pre-existing injuries that you already have that it will allow you to play if you take a shot. But you got all this stuff going. I'm telling you, people, when you're playing, a lot of that stuff you don't feel because the adrenaline is going. If you have somebody in the military that has served, that has been in combat, ask them about that adrenaline. And ask them, have they ever done something that after they finished, they didn't realize in the midst of them, going to battle, but then after they were like, oh my goodness, I didn't realize I did this to myself. Ask some people about how that goes in regards to your body. You can suffer a quad injury and finish out the game because of your adrenaline. And then as your body starts to calm itself down, then every little nick and bruise and everything else you start to feel. I'm sure that is what happened to L'Jarius Sneed. And unless you've been in those situations, you can't sit here and say the guy is milking an injury.
615-737-1025. We'll continue to take your thoughts on L'Jarius Sneed on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. But before we do that, tune into 94.9 The Fan tonight for Vanderbilt women's basketball. The Commodores will be on the road taking on South Florida. Tip-off is at 6 and pregame begins at 5:45. Coverage is also available on the 94.9 The Fan app and at 94.9thefan.com.
Hey, this is Derek Mason, and you heard me tell you about Dr. Lodge and his staff over at Cool Springs MD for some time. If you have set out to lose weight, chances are it's not your first time setting a resolution to shed some extra pounds, only to face disappointment. At Cool Springs MD, Dr. Lodge and his team understands the frustration of this cycle, and that is why they offer a different approach to weight loss. Their comprehensive weight loss program is led by Dr. Jeffrey Lodge and addresses the root cause of weight gain. With tailored nutrition, exercise, blood test supplements, and more. They will customize a program specific to you. So connect with Dr. Lodge at CoolSpringsMD.com today to schedule your appointment for a personalized weight loss plan just for you. That's Cool Springs MD, where your weight loss journey becomes a success story.
This week's Nashville's best deal is Fat Bottom Brewing Company. Enjoy their long-awaited release of their barrel-aged Noel Christmas Ale, just in time for the holidays. Get half off a $100 gift card now at thegamenashville.com/deals while supplies last. Derek Mason and Adam Vingan, Willie Donick departing temporarily to handle his Predators broadcasting responsibilities. The Predators are back in action tonight in Edmonton against the Oilers. Puck drop at 8, pregame at 7 here on 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Silly underdog picks coming up in the next segment. So we will give you your cue to call if you want to represent the people and make a pick. But Derek, another part of this L'Jarius Sneed conversation is that L'Jarius Sneed, compared to last season and what we have seen from L'Jarius Sneed in his NFL career, has not played particularly well. And look, it's a high bar. L'Jarius Sneed, especially last season, played really well. So far this season, in the 5 games that Sneed has played, opposing quarterbacks have a 75.3 passer rating when Sneed is the nearest defender. He has given up 1 touchdown as the nearest defender. It was the Michael Pittman touchdown in the game against the Colts, the last game he appeared in. Last season, he did not give up any touchdowns in coverage during the regular season. And opposing quarterbacks had a passer rating of 55.5. So Sneed's performance this season has been pretty good. Compared to what we saw from him last season, he's down a little bit. So I think the combination of the team not playing well, he hasn't played as well as he did last season. All of that is coming back at him with the questions about his injury and whether or not he is taking more time to recuperate than he should. We do have one text on our text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com that's pretty interesting. The unnamed texter says, Sneed's injury is bad luck in a Titans season that needed everything to go right. The truth is that the Titans needed more from their offensive line, right side especially, more from their quarterback development, and more from young players at linebacker, for instance, than fans probably should have expected. But when you add bad luck to poor play and overly high expectations, people get upset. And that, I think, summarizes what we are seeing with L'Jarius Sneed.
Yeah, I think it's a combination, and you know, the texter, he alluded to a lot of things that, you know, sort of is going on, and how the fan base is reacting to all of this, because of and listen, I'm not gonna sit here and, you know, kind of go back and forth on, you know, whether their message should have been a message that they put out of, you know, sort of we're in the winning, you know, process, and we're in win now mode, as opposed to them saying, hey, listen, it's going to be an uphill battle for us. We got a lot of things that we need to take care of. Be patient with us. So I'm not going to sit back and sort of litigate whether they should have or shouldn't have did that. But I think the texture is right. When your previous 2 seasons, well, season and a half, because it started, you know, the one season they started off 7-2 and then lost every game after that, and then subsequently the next following year they ended up being a bad team, and it's sort of picked up this season. You know, so the fan base sort of should have saw this coming. And when you are a team that has been bad like this for so long, and you add players, there is a point where, you know, if anybody goes down, this goes from being a, you know, optimistic year to being flat out a bad year. They were teetering. It was never a situation where they were balanced, in a sense, because it was either going to go one way or the other. There was no balancing act here, where there was no balance to it. If they stayed healthy across the board and the quarterback played well or good enough, then yeah, they had a shot. Even with that, people weren't picking them to go to AFC Championship game or winning their division. That was just to possibly get into the playoffs, have a winning season. But the contrary has happened. They've had injury after injury. The right side of the line still look as bad as it looked the last couple of years, and your quarterback isn't no more better than what he was last year. So when you have all of that with a team that's really not that good based upon their depth, this is what's going to happen. So yeah, then it's magnified when your key guys go down, when you don't have a L'Jarius Sneed, when you don't have a Chidobe. He hadn't played all season. When Treylon Burks goes down, I hadn't seen him. It seemed like it's been 2 months since we seen him play. And I know it hadn't been that long, but it just seems like that.
I'm not sure we're going to see Treylon Burks in the Titans uniform again.
Yeah, we may not. And you're right about that. But when you have all these injuries, Cushenberry go down, then it sort of magnifies. Yeah, Quandre Diggs goes. Then it sort of magnifies everything. To whereas you had a little hope at the beginning, but now hey, listen, this roster is the same roster that it was last year. They couldn't do enough to turn this roster around this year. This is a 2 to 3 year plan. It really is. And I don't know if Rand Carthon and Brian Callahan will survive the 2 to 3 years. But this is a 2 to 3 year process. Why? Because the bottom of your half is garbage. I don't mean like I don't mean like individual players the same.
I hear what you're saying.
But it's like it's not good at all. None of these bottom half guys can go anywhere else in the league and be true contributors on a football team.
The other thing too is L'Jarius Sneed was unavailable for the Titans' 2 toughest games to date. He wasn't available at Buffalo.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't available at Detroit. That is why you trade for L'Jarius Sneed to play in those games, and he wasn't available in those games. And although I did read his numbers this season, as you were talking, it actually reminded me of a conversation we had after the Miami game. Now, I believe this is right.
Yeah.
He didn't give up any touchdowns in coverage in that game, but Tyler Huntley was throwing the ball to Tyreek Hill and missed him, I feel like, at least on 2 separate occasions that would have been touchdowns had it been Tua throwing Tyreek Hill at the ball. So perhaps L'Jarius Sneed's numbers shouldn't be as good as I read them off. But Dustin from Hopkinsville on our text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com says different teams can bring different results for key players. For instance, L'Jarius Sneed's a defensive player, a great one. That was on a team that had the loudest crowd in the NFL, the best quarterback in the NFL. The momentum is always in the Chiefs' favor, even when it's not. Players play differently on each side of the ball when they're hot on offense or know that the quarterback is a dog. There's nothing to play for here other than a check.
Oh, there's a lot to play for. There's a lot to play for. I don't want to truly get into the there's nothing to play for but a check. There's a lot to play for outside of a check. Listen, he had the luxury of the past couple of years, or at least since Spagnuolo has been there. Let's say that. Playing, in a system that Spags has perfected in a sense of how he likes to call plays. He doesn't chase games. Spags doesn't chase games. Okay. So he has the benefit of that. And not saying that Denard Wilson, I don't think he's a good defensive coordinator, but that experience of Spags, he's won a Super Bowl being a defensive coordinator. That experience of Spags, you can't take lightly. And then when you have probably the best interior lineman in the National Football League playing for you, Chris Jones, that makes your job just that much easier. When Chris Jones is either going to push the pocket, or he's going to get a sack, or he's going to throw his hand up and knock a ball down, or he's going to command the double team, sometimes a triple team, and somebody else going to get the sack. When you're playing behind a guy like that, your job is a little bit easier. It's a little bit easier. That's why, to me, at the beginning of the season, I thought, which I have been wrong up until this point, I thought that the person that would benefit the most out of Denard Wilson's defense is Jeffrey Simmons. I thought because of what I seen in Baltimore and how they run their defense and what their defensive tackles were able to do, I thought that he was going to be able to come in and just unlock something in Jeffrey Simmons, and we were going to see the true, real, like dominant force of Jeffrey Simmons. If that would have happened, it would have made those guys' job on the back end a little bit easier, but it didn't. So now he's in a situation where you're not getting a pass rush, and they're asking you to cover a little bit longer. Now, listen, they're paying you a lot of money. You should be able to do it. I can say that. But I don't care who you have out there cornerback. If he has to cover longer than what is expected, it's going to be hard on him. Now, listen, I don't know too many people that can cover Tyreek Hill in the NFL. I don't know too many. Matter of fact, I don't know anyone that can cover him in the NFL. But that's still no excuse for you to get beat the way you did. You know, so to me, when things start happening and the injuries, that's why the fan base is like they're so disappointed, frustrated, and at their wits' end with this team. Because not only did you go out and you get these players that are not playing for us now, but you sold us that we were going to be a good team and not really giving them the true assessment of what your team was from top to bottom. You gave them what your team was from top to the middle, which if everybody stays healthy and the quarterback plays a little bit better, this is an okay team. It's not a bad team. But because you didn't do that, now you see what happens when you have a few injuries, a few guys go down. Now your season is lost because your team isn't as good as what you sold it off to be.
615-737-1025. It's time for Silly Underdog Picks.
Woo-hoo!
I will give you the cue to call if you want to represent the people at 615-737-1025. But before our weekly competition, join Jared Stillman, Chris Sanders, and Derek Mason downtown at John Bon Jovi's Nashville this Sunday for the pregame show from 9:30 to 11:30. They will break down the Titans' Week 11 matchup against the Vikings and give you the latest updates before the game. The pregame show is presented by Parman Tractor and Equipment, Sun Deck Nashville, Sloan's Motorcycle ATV, and award-winning Blue Note Juke Joint and Blue Note Crossroads Bourbon.
There's no need to fear. Underdog is here.
D-Mace, Vingan, Adonic, 1025, 1063, The Game. Broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you. I now turn it over to the commissioner.
Wait
a minute. Where is Willie?
What? I'm singing this song and he ain't here.
I can't see him.
Willie is not here. He has to get ready for the Predators game. But unfortunately, there's no song that goes, Adam B, Adam B. So I just wanted to give Willie his due.
Mhm.
Welcome back, of course, to Silly Underdog Picks. And I'm going to be serving as the interim commissioner of the competition this week with Willie. Quiet you. I haven't introduced you yet, but I'm going to serve as the interim commissioner for Willie Donick this week. So let us introduce the contestants. Derek is here. I am here. I guess Chris Sanders is here.
Boo.
How are you, Chris?
Man, I'm good. Hey, congratulations, man.
Me?
Yes.
On my promotion to interim commissioner?
No, that you're alone in fourth place.
Oh.
That is so wrong of him.
I did.
Oh, he's so wrong.
I did walk right into that one.
Yes, you did.
I did walk right into that one.
Oh man, Adam.
I think this is only going to be a 1 week commitment from me as commissioner. I don't have the patience of Willie to deal with Chris Sanders' shenanigans.
Who does?
And on the other side, of course, our fearless leader, Chase McCabe, is here. Chase, how are you?
I'm doing well, fellas. I stopped by my mom's house to let the dog out, and he will not let me go back in. So we're just walking around the yard. So
don't you hate when that happens, Chase? Like when you go to let your dog out and you got somewhere to be, and usually they do their business real quick, but now it's like, I know you got somewhere to go, but I'm gonna take my time.
He's very, very smart. He's a Great Pyrenees, and he knows exactly what he's doing.
What?
So he's like, I really don't give a crap that you have somewhere to be. I'm gonna walk around and sniff every blade of grass just because I can.
All right, so let's start by recapping last week's action. Week 11 of the competition. I had the first pick. I went to beautiful Hawaii, where the Rainbow Warriors were hosting the UNLV Running Rebels. Hawaii was a 13.5-point underdog at home. UNLV wins 29-27. It was close.
Oh,
it was close.
Still in fourth place.
But unfortunately, yes, as Chris has mentioned, still one win for me in the competition this season. I mean, it's like rookie hazing, basically. That's at least what I'm going to chalk it up to. We now head over to Derek Mason. He was tied with me with one win, but he's back on the board. He chose West Virginia.
Oh my goodness.
Who was a 5-point underdog on the road at Cincinnati. West Virginia wins 31-24.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes, I love it.
So Derek is now at 18.5 points, leaving me behind in last place at 13.5. Chris, stop laughing, man. I'm about to get to you. Chris Sanders, who is winning the competition, I just want to point that out. He is winning the competition. He chose Middle Tennessee State University. MTSU was an 11-point underdog against Liberty. Liberty wins 37-17.
Hey, as long as they gave it to all, that's all that matters.
Chris, do I have this right? You are preparing to face Tim Hasselbeck this weekend?
Oh, snap.
Mace, you better be there at the game.
Oh, yes, I will. Hey, listen, I told Tim, I said, hey, listen, the boys over at the NBA say, man, y'all got something coming. Y'all got a beat down coming.
Come on, man.
No, I didn't say that. You know I didn't say that. You know I didn't say that.
You
I wanted to. Ooh, I wanted to.
But Mace, if it happens, hey, you know.
That's going to be my silly underdogs.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Unfortunately, we're not betting on high school games.
Dang it.
That's not part of the competition.
Oh.
But Chris still in the lead
Yeah,
with 38
36.
points, but his record falls to 3-8. We now go to Chase McCabe, who went back to the well, went with the Commodores once again at home against South Carolina. Vanderbilt was a 4.5-point underdog at home to the Gamecocks, who come into town and beat the Commodores 28-7. Chase, how you feeling?
Yeah, you know, I guess all good things come to an end, but that was a very disappointing one for the Commodores. So hopefully they can rest up this week and close the season out strong, but not a good performance.
So Derek was not the only winner this week. The people won last week. Our main man, Mark, took Ole Miss to defeat Georgia. And that's exactly what they did. Ole Miss 28-10 win against Georgia at home. So congratulations to Mark. He wins those tickets to Darrell Hall. Finally, somebody won those tickets. The people improve to 4-7 in the competition. So this is the leaderboard. Chris in first place with 38 points. Chase in second with 29.5. Derek in third at 18.5. The people in fourth. Wait, I'm actually in fifth place. The people in fourth place at 14.5, and I'm in last place at 13.5. So who knows? It's a new week. I had the first pick last week, which means that Derek has the first pick this week. Where's Derek's music, David? There we go.
Where my theme song? Yeah, where my theme song? Man, you gotta love this. Just let it marinate, because I got my team already. Once again, summer loving, had me in line.
Get ready for Grease 3 featuring Derek Mason.
I am going this week. I am going to the SEC in the big battle. I think it's going to be a big battle. The Tigers of Missouri versus the Gamecocks of South Carolina. I am picking the Tigers of Missouri. I think they are a 12-point dog in this game.
So I have it as a 13.5.
Oh, I take that. I take that too. I take it too. I know South Carolina is riding on the high. They won 3 games in a row. They beat our Commodores 28-7. I get that. I understand that. But we're seeking revenge for Vanderbilt, okay? So Missouri will beat the Gamecocks. Put them in the chokehold.
All right. So Derek is taking Missouri, who is on the road out at South Carolina. I have South Carolina as a 13.5-point favorite against Missouri. It is a top 25 matchup, number 23 Missouri at number 21 South Carolina. So Derek taking the Tigers. That leaves us to pick number 2.
Yes, sir.
Chris Sanders.
No. I don't care to find you.
I don't care what you do.
No, really. I hope you are lonely. No one needs to love you. Gosh. Where my man Mark at? I know he's listening to this, hating it right now.
Hey, Mark won last week, so he's feeling good. Chris, what do you got, my man?
I'm going to the well. I ain't picked these guys in a long time, and they always come through in the clutch. I am going with Stanford over Louisville.
Okay.
proud members of the Atlantic Coast Conference.
Yes, sir. 20. I think it's 25.
Louisville is a 20.5-point favorite
Mm.
on the road at Stanford. The number 19 Louisville Cardinals at 2-7 Stanford. Louisville 20.5-point favorites. So
We
Chris,
call Louisville the Fighting Jared Stillmans.
No, yeah. That Buster.
I got to say, Chris, we played your
Yes, sir.
clip from yesterday of you wondering aloud if L'Jarius Sneed was milking his injury.
No. I didn't know. I didn't say it like that.
You left the door open, my friend.
Yeah, you did,
left
buddy.
the door open, my
You
friend.
did. Yeah, you did.
No,
Mhm.
I said if he was 7-2, would it be a difference? I don't know.
Does that sound like leaving the door open?
I think the door was left ajar.
Exactly.
It was left ajar.
Hey, man, whoever's in that wind tunnel, please, and I mean, please, raise
There's
your
a mute button
windows.
for a reason.
Goodness.
Was that Chris?
No.
Was that Chase?
I'm at work, man.
I think it was me.
Chase, you're
Chase.
disqualified from the competition. You don't get a pick this week. You get a big fat 0. But Chris taking Stanford over Louisville. Stanford is a 20.5-point underdog at home to Louisville. That takes us to the suit, Chase McCabe.
Behold the king, the king of kings. On your knees, God.
All right. I'm going to make this pick, and then I got to run. Nebraska plus 9.5 at USC.
Nebraska and USC. He is indeed correct. USC is a 9.5-point favorite
I
at
thought
home
about that game
against
too.
Nebraska. Chase is taking the Cornhuskers to upset. Well, it wouldn't really be an upset because Nebraska has a better record than USC. But Nebraska is a 9.5-point underdog on the road at USC. I've got it down, Chase. We'll see you later, my friend.
GTFN. Ta-ta for now.
See ya.
What?
You never heard that before?
No.
All right.
No.
So Chase is taking the Cornhuskers over USC. Nebraska is a 9.5-point underdog. That leaves me with the final pick. I'm going to have to keep taking big swings now if I will have any chance of getting back into this competition. Now, I don't like to do the Chris Sanders big swing because that's too big of a swing. So as you might have heard, I am a fan of Maximum Chaos, even if Maximum Chaos is redundant. I am a fan of Maximum Chaos. Crank it up to 11. I am going to take the San Jose State Spartans to upset number 13 Boise State.
Oh my God.
David James is cracking up in the back, which means he doesn't have much hope for my pick. But I am going to take San Jose State, a respectable 6-3 at home, to upset number 13 Boise State. San Jose State is a 13.5-point underdog at home. So give me San Jose State to upset Boise State this weekend.
What?
David does not like my pick, or he thinks it's just so bad it's funny.
Oh, yeah. It was just funny to hear San Jose State. I just thought it was funny.
I know.
Shout out to San Jose State, a proud program. I've got a friend that works for San Jose State, so this is for him. But I am going to take San Jose State plus 13.5 to upset Boise State this weekend. So let's recap the picks. We'll start with Derek Mason. Derek Mason goes to the SEC. He takes Missouri, a 13.5-point underdog, over South Carolina. Chris Sanders to the ACC, the proud members of the ACC, the Stanford Cardinal.
The All-Coast Conference.
This is the Cardinal versus the Cardinals. One singular, one plural. The Stanford Cardinal.
Tree versus bird, rivalry for the ages.
Yes. The Stanford Cardinal are 20.5-point underdogs against the Louisville Cardinals, plural. Chase takes the Nebraska Cornhuskers, 9.5-point underdogs against Southern Cal. And I take the proud San Jose State Spartans. 13.5-point home underdogs to number 13 Boise State. So those are our selections for this week on Silly Underdog Picks. We do have our contestant waiting, Steven, and we will get to Steven on the other side. But I just want to let Steven know what he will win if he chooses correctly. If Steven picks a game correctly, he will win a pair of tickets to see the Yacht Rock Review at the Ryman Auditorium on Saturday, February 1st. You're not into Yacht Rock, Chris?
Yeah, no, I'm going to see Treach.
Yeah. I think that show is no longer happening. I will never live that down.
No, ever.
Never.
No.
I will never live that down. But if Steven is correct, he will win a pair of tickets to see the Yacht Rock Review at the Ryman on Saturday, February 1st. Good luck to everybody this week. This is the part where Derek says, I hope you all lose.
Yeah, I hope you all lose. And while you're losing, I hope you all stub your toes.
That's too far now. That's just too far.
Nah, it's never too far.
Chris, what time is the game? What time is the game?
The game is at 7 o'clock on Friday. You going to be there? D-Mace ain't going to be there.
I'm going to be there.
You're going to take up
You
4
ain't gonna be
spots.
there.
I told you, I'll take up 5 spots. I got it. I'm
Derek,
there.
it reminds me of Talladega Nights where Ricky Bobby leaves tickets for his dad at the will call and he never shows up. And there are just tickets waiting for Derek at will call at Ensworth every
He ain't
week,
going.
and he ain't going.
I'm
He
going.
ain't going.
I'm going to be there.
He's going to antagonize you, Chris. He's just going to be in the
I
bleachers
know.
going, Sanders, Sanders.
Give me the ball, Reverend. I'm going to throw it at him.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy. I
If
hope all
nothing
y'all
else,
lose.
if nothing else, Derek will go to yell at Chris. But good luck this weekend, Chris.
Appreciate
Big
it, brother.
game. We will get Steven's pick to represent the people for Silly Underdog Picks on the other side. Derek Mason, Adam Vingad, 1025, 1063. The game.
Hey, this is D Mason. You heard me tell you about Dr. Lodge and his staff over at Cool Springs MD for some time. If you set out to lose some weight, chances are it's not your first time setting a resolution to shed some extra pounds, only to face disappointment. But at Cool Springs MD, Dr. Lodge and his team understands the frustration of this cycle, and that is why they offer a different approach to weight loss. Their comprehensive weight loss program is led by Dr. Jeffrey Lodge and addresses the root cause of weight gain with tailored nutrition, exercise, blood test supplements, and more. They will customize a program specific to you and you only. So connect with Dr. Lodge at CoolSpringsMD.com today to schedule your appointment for a personalized weight loss plan just for you. That's Cool Springs MD, where your weight loss journey becomes a success story.
Tune into 94.9 The Fan this Saturday at 3:15 for our college football game of the week, Missouri versus South Carolina. Derek will have vested interest in that game since he just chose it.
Absolutely.
That game is presented by Twin Peaks Restaurants. Take your tailgate to Twin Peaks, home of 29-degree drafts and wall-to-wall sports. Derek Mason and Adam Vingan here with you. Steven is on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Steven is going to represent the people this week on our silly underdog pick. Steven, thank you for calling. Welcome to the competition. Please give me your selection.
I'm glad to be here. UL Monroe over Auburn.
Ooh, let's see. Let's
What
see
is
what
the
the line
line
on
on
that
that one
game.
is?
Auburn is a 24-point favorite at home
Ooh, okay.
against Louisiana Monroe. That's an interesting pick. What went into your decision, Stephen, to make that selection?
UL Monroe against the spread this year wins 75% of the time.
Okay.
That's a bad
Interesting.
man then.
Well, Stephen, I have your selection. Good luck, and we hope you win some tickets to see Yacht Rock Review at the Ryman.
No doubt.
This one's for the people.
Thank you, Stephen.
Thank you, Stephen.
So
Appreciate it.
Stephen taking Louisiana Monroe, a 24-point underdog on the road at Auburn. I feel like if he gets this right, he should win more than a pair of tickets.
Oh, what else you want to give him?
I don't know.
Give him a attaboy.
You did
a good job, Squirt.
He'll win the pair of tickets.
Good job, Squirt. I hadn't heard that said in so long.
He'll win the tickets to see Yacht Rock Review, and as interim commissioner, I am making the executive decision that if he wins this pick, he gets to smack Chris Sanders upside the head.
Okay, I take
That's
that.
fair.
Can I do it? Can I be right along with him? Smacking Chris in the head?
That sounds
you had to win yours too.
That sounds too violent.
Okay, yeah. We only got room for one violent.
We'll make
one
him,
violent act.
We'll make him do a polar plunge.
Hey, I like that.
So, Steven, there's a lot riding on this because if you win, not only do you win a pair of tickets, I'm making the decision that we get to punish Chris Sanders in some form.
There we go. I like that.
How are you feeling about Chris Sanders' chances against Tim Hasselbeck this week?
Who, me?
Yes, you.
Chances are 0.00.
Have some faith in your friend. I know you guys have a playful relationship. Have some faith in your friend, man.
Why have
Don't
faith?
be hating on the
Why have
NBA
faith
Big
in
Red.
him when I know NBA isn't going to win?
Oh,
wow.
Listen, I'm still.
I hope you're listening, Chris.
I paid a lot of money for my kids to go to that
bullpen,
school,
baby.
so I am going to be rooting
Bulletin
for them.
material right here.
That
for
was
NBA right now.
Chris. If you're listening, clip that right there, and just play it on repeat in the locker room for the rest of the week. Derek
I can
Mason
send
saying,
this to the court.
You're not going to win. You're not going to win. You're not going to win.
You're not going to do it.
I do imagine you just sitting on the sideline, giving the business to Chris Sanders all game. Sanders.
I would love that too. Believe me.
That was a dumb play call from you, Chris.
Hey, Chris, that was stupid.
Why'd you ever tell him to do that?
Oh man, it's gonna be an entertaining game tomorrow.
Absolutely. Big game tomorrow in the playoffs. So, speaking of teams that people around here have very little faith in, the Tennessee Titans. And, of course, with the way this season has been going, a lot of people are refreshing tankathon.com every chance they get. By the way, tankathon.com doesn't just do the NFL, it does the other sports as well. So if you're looking at the Predators or your favorite NBA team, you can do it there too.
There you go.
Shout out to Tankathon. So the Titans currently are in position to have the third overall selection in the NFL draft. And there are people hoping that the Titans will continue to lose and their draft stock will improve. There's not much further that it can go. They're third right now, but we'll see. But I came across an interesting story in The Athletic that was published yesterday. The best 2025 NFL draft options for teams vying for the number one overall pick. Written by Nick Baumgardner, who is a senior NFL writer and a draft analyst for The Athletic. So Nick Baumgardner went through all of the teams that are vying for that number one pick. Carolina, the Patriots, the Raiders, the Giants, the Browns, of course, the Tennessee Titans. So this was Baumgardner's opinion on what the Titans should do. He said they should trade down or draft Travis Hunter. And Baumgartner writes, quote, "It doesn't look like Will Levis is the answer to anyone's prayers, but he's still only 25 years old and on a cheap contract. The Titans are in a weird spot, though, and it might get worse before it gets better. A preferable option to going quarterback at number one, finding a decent veteran to compete with Levis while Tennessee builds out the rest of its roster." Baumgartner also mentions the Titans are one of the worst teams in football. They also started the year with an older roster on average than the Lions, Eagles, Packers, and Chiefs. Tackle could also be a choice here, but again, this might not be the right class to address this spot. So Baumgartner is suggesting the Titans either trade down, which I've heard a lot from Titans fans, because I heard you talking about this with Jake Lyman the other day when I was out, Derek. This quarterback draft class could have some good players. Shedeur Sanders, Jalen Milroe, etc. But no one this is the guy that if you are restarting your franchise, you need to build around this quarterback. That does not appear to exist in this draft currently. So the Titans could trade down, accumulate more draft picks, and start to rebuild their roster that way. Or Baumgartner suggests drafting Travis Hunter, who plays both cornerback and wide receiver at Colorado. I believe you have said that in the NFL he should play receiver. Do I have that right?
One or the other, full time. I'm not saying that he couldn't, do what, Champ Bailey did or Deion Sanders did, where he can play part of both. But in this league, it's just hard to play both offensively and defensively every game. You may go in thinking you want to do that, but the rigors of this sport and what it demands, your body physically just can't do it. Not for the long haul. So to me, he's a heck of a receiver, college-wise. But I just think his transition would be better, would be easier. Not to say it's going to be easier, but a little bit easier if he transitioned as a defensive back. He's going to be a hell of a defensive back, I believe. And he would be a good wide receiver. But when I'm looking at wide receivers, I just don't look at, he got a bunch of yards and he got open. Because college football allows you to get a bunch of yards and get open by the rules, the spacing, and everything else. And you only have one defensive back at most that is an NFL caliber defensive back. Majority of the time, if you have one, you don't have any other. So guys are going to get open. That's just the way it is. He's a good player, hell of an athlete, but if I'm drafting him to be a defensive back. And yeah, we'll let you play offense every once in a while.
But the Titans would need him more at receiver than cornerback, wouldn't they?
Yeah, I think the Titans would need him more at receiver. But listen, I'm not going to sit here and doubt the kid's ability to make the adjustment. But if he's talking to play both sides, then it's going to be hard. And he really has to learn a lot more at the receiver position. Because right now, it's just, I've seen the routes and how he runs his routes. Nobody's going to mistake him for, a Jimmy Smith, who I believe is one of the greatest route runners ever, or Jefferson is playing now, or Jamar Chase in regards to his route running. Now, he catches the ball extremely well, but being in the NFL and playing that position, play in and play out, is more than just catching the football. Okay, you got to get open. You got to be able to read the defenses. There's a lot of things that encompasses just that. But catching the football is the most important thing.
So Travis Hunter is number one on Mel Kiper's latest big board. Kiper writes, quote, "Hunter has a great feel for the game on both offense and defense, and he has played a whopping 996 snaps over 9 games this season. I really think he has a chance to play both sides of the ball early in his pro career and make an impact both ways, though I'm ranking him as a receiver right now." That's Mel Kiper. The offensive and defensive coordinators for the team that ultimately drafts him are going to be battling each other to use him. Hunter has tremendous hand-eye coordination and elite ball skills. His physical traits and quickness are off the charts, but he also thinks about the game at a high level. He is a highly competitive prospect who works hard to maximize his potential, end quote. That was Mel Kiper Jr., who has Travis Hunter #1 on his big board. And that's an interesting point. Let's say the Titans do what Nick Baumgartner of The Athletic suggests. Well, he says either trade down or draft Travis Hunter if available. Imagine the situation. We're going to assume that the offensive and defensive coordinators are the same. So let's say it's Nick Holtz and Denard Wilson. They draft Travis Hunter. What would those conversations be like between those two? Because Kiper has a good point. He can make an impact, Hunter can, on both sides of the ball. I imagine, like, how do you think that conversation would go? And I wonder what Brian Callahan would say about that.
I don't know. I think you would, give him the leeway and explain to him, listen, this is what we're drafting you as, but yes, we will give you an opportunity to play on the other side of the ball. And Mel should know this better than anybody. This sport is a rigorous, tough, physical sport. The difference between high school and college is big, but the difference between college and the pros is great. That's why some people can play so well and be so electric in college, and then they get in the NFL, and it's like, what happened to that same person? Well, nothing happened to that person. It's just the jump from the college level to the pro level is so great that, yeah, you could be a hell of an athlete, but that alone won't get you over. Again, if he concentrated on being a wide receiver, then I think he would be one of the best young wide receivers in the game. And if he concentrated on just being a DB, he would be one of the best young DBs in the game. But this game doesn't afford you to concentrate on both. You can't maximize your ability to play the game when you're concentrating on both, which means you're in one meeting after another meeting, and you're going back and forth, back and forth. It doesn't work long term, and it doesn't really work short term. When I mean short term, I'm talking 3-4 years. That's short term. It's not going to work. The man's body will be beat up in this game. So if you draft him, I would love to have him, but I would let him know, listen, we're drafting you to be this, but we will give you an opportunity to play that as well.
615-737-1025. So that's the question I want to ask all of you. According to Nick Baumgartner, NFL draft analyst for The Athletic, he suggests that the Titans either trade down or use their top pick on Travis Hunter. If given the choice between the two, which would you prefer? Would you want the Titans to trade down, or would you want them to take a shot on Travis Hunter if available? 615-737-1025. Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025-1063. The Game. D. Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, here with you. A reminder that you can play Predators Pick to Click tomorrow with Robbie and Rexroad at 8:45 if you correctly guess a Preds player that scores a goal in the Preds game tomorrow night. It is a back-to-back, so they play tonight, but they also play tomorrow against the Flames. You win a pair of tickets to an upcoming Preds home game, so you can do that tomorrow with Robbie and Rexroad at 8:45. Our friend Mark is on our phone line, driven by Wilson County Hyundai.com. First off, Mark, congratulations on your silly underdog win last week. You got those tickets to Darrell Hall. I hope you have a wonderful time. What's on your mind?
Yeah, I appreciate that, Adam. Hey, D-Mace, I
Yes.
better hurry up and get this in real quick because, Adam likes to get rid of me. So
Not at all. Not at all.
Hey, but, Adam, I should have, I tried to get with you through a text message last week, and I was going to try to tell you, take Georgia Tech and the points against Miami. I knew Georgia Tech was going to beat Miami.
You were right about that, too.
That would have been you would have had you a great win with that, Adam.
I should have listened. I missed that text message. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. But
Mark,
saying about the Titans and stuff.
Yes.
Adam, that's kind of hard to decide. I mean, as elite of an athlete as Hunter is, and he's the best athlete in college today. He is. I mean, now you could bring him in and, like D-May said, put him in some situational plays around the goal line in the red zone and use him like that right there. But he couldn't play both sides of the ball like that. It'd be too demanding and too much. He'd be out the league in about 4 or 5 years if you did that to him. As far as grabbing, trading back and getting multiple picks, I think I like that idea better because we all know the Titans need all they can get, Adam. I mean, they really do. They need all the picks that they can get to get that team back to where they need to get to. So I probably would take the latter and go with the picks. But, I mean, it's hard to pass up on an athlete like Travis Hunter. Hey, D-Mace, I heard you say yesterday you're running for a politician. Well, I got everything set up, man. I'll be your campaign manager.
Let's do it.
We'll let Willie be the treasurer,
And Adam can be our analytics person.
Yeah, Adam could set up the meetings and set up everything and get everything set up.
I'll be the spokesperson for Derek.
Yeah. Hey, D-Mace will be good, man. I'm telling you, I'll be campaigning for you every day, man. But hey, man, y'all have a good day. Just wanted to holler at y'all, man, and love y'all and talk to y'all some other time, man.
All right, Mark. Thanks for
Mark.
calling
Appreciate
as
it.
always. And it's an interesting decision. Again, we're referencing an article written in The Athletic by Nick Baumgartner, who's an NFL draft analyst. He looked at what the bad teams that are in position to have a high draft pick should do with their selection. And Baumgartner suggested that the Titans either trade down, which means getting more picks, or draft Travis Hunter if available. Right now, they are slated to pick third in the NFL draft. That could change, of course. It changes every week. If I recall correctly, they were ninth after beating the Patriots, and now they're third. So this thing is going to keep jumping every single week. But you brought up, you were giving me a scouting report during the break on Travis Hunter as a receiver. And I thought to myself, you should share that with everybody. So based on what you've seen from Travis Hunter at receiver, what are his NFL prospects at that position?
Listen, I think the young man has really good hands. And, honestly, that's what it boils down to. Can you catch the football? Can you not? That's first. He's shown that he can catch the football. But then after that, what are those other things? Are you a good route runner? Can you recognize defenses as the parts are moving? If you're getting jammed, can you get off the jam? Because these guys, listen, just watch. And it's not even really about Travis Hunter. Watch all these receivers in this game. Tell me how many of them are getting contested at the line of scrimmage. None of them, really. And I would beg to say none of them. They're not getting jammed or hands put on them on the line of scrimmage. Then when they get off the line of scrimmage, they're very, very seldom our defensive back putting their hands on them then. And these guys are allowed to run scot-free. And it's almost just find an open area. I'm not teaching you how to run a route. Just find the open area. Just like I talk about quarterbacks, I am not getting you ready for the NFL. I I am getting you ready to win games for me in college. If you make it to the NFL, great. That'll be a notch on your belt. We can use that in recruiting. But I am not sitting here as a head coach getting you ready for the NFL. I am getting you ready to win ball games for me. Because we've seen a lot of quarterbacks that are hell of a quarterbacks in college, then getting the NFL, and they're just not ready. Why? Because my job isn't to prepare you for the NFL. My job is to win games here at the collegiate level. And as I promised your parents, help you get a degree before you leave out here. Those are my two jobs, nothing else. You make it to the league, great. We all can benefit from it. But that is not what you are brought here to do. And I look at Travis Hunter like I look at all these wide receivers. It's not, even though the most important part is catching the football, it's not all about catching the football. Can you get off the line of scrimmage? Can you read defenses? Can you get in and out of your breaks? Because that's what separates these great receivers from the good or the subpar or the not good, is the ability to transition from one spot to another as quickly as possible, to be able to recognize defenses as they're moving, because these defenses get complex, to be able to find holes in defenses, to recognize it. You got to be able to do all of this. And even though I don't, listen, blocking is a want to. It's not something that you teach somebody how to. You got to want to block at this level too. Again, he is a hell of a prospect. Just a flat out, he's the best football player in college that I've seen in the last couple of years. The best, just pure football player. He is that guy. But if you're drafting him at a wide receiver, you got to understand that this is going to be work in progress. Okay, because you got to teach him how to be a true wide receiver, not just a catcher of a football, because you are not going to be able to get away with the things that you got away with in college because you were a superior athlete than the guys that were guarding you. You got to be able to learn routes. You can't tip your routes off. You can't drift when you get at the top of your route. You got to plant that foot, come back at an angle very quickly. If you can't do that, you're going to get exposed in this league. And then go to the part of him playing both ways. This is why I say it's hard for anybody to do it. The perception out there is that Deion Sanders did it, and he did it at a high level. That's a lie. It's a farce. It's a true farce.
I did find an old story from ESPN. Like, this is so old, it looks like the advent of the internet, like the graphics on this page and such. It said that the Cowboys, I believe this was in 1996, the Cowboys determined he was on the field for 50% of their offensive plays and 80% on defense.
Exactly. And you know what he ended up with? 36 receptions, 475 yards, averaging 13 yards a catch with 1 touchdown. If you're telling me that's what I'm going to get out of Travis Hunter, I don't want that. Not in today's football. I don't want that. If I'm drafting him number 1 and he's playing both sides, I need you to be getting at least 800 yards, 8 or 9 touchdowns, and you need to be a shutdown corner on the other side. If I'm drafting you number 1 to play both sides, damn it, you need to be damn near 1,000-yard receiver, and you need to be a shutdown corner, because that's what the number 1 pick, that's what it entails. You are a difference maker. You are a franchise changer. And the notion is Deion Sanders did it at a high level on both sides. No, he didn't. He did not do it. His best year and his only breakout year was with the Cowboys in 96. I'm going to give you some numbers before that. -8 yards, 17 yards, 45 yards. And I'm not just talking about games. I'm not talking about games, people. I'm talking about for the season. 106 yards, 25 yards. The 475 that he had in 96, 100 yards, 24 yards in 1999. That's when they said, nope, we can't do it anymore. Injuries are occurring with this guy, and he's not the same. He's not the same. He doesn't have the same impact on offense that he does have on defense. Deion Sanders was a highlight reel on the offensive side of the ball. Put him in there a few plays. Design it specifically for him where he's going to get open, and more than likely Deion will come down with it. They were not singling Deion out and said, you're going to be our number 1 guy, and we are going to put our passing game on your shoulders. They didn't do that. Even I know they had Michael Irvin, as great as he was. They still didn't do that with him because they had other guys that were better than him at that position. He was just a hell of an athlete. And he can go in part-time. It wasn't even part-time. It was sometimes. he can go out there and get you some plays. So the notion that Deion Sanders was just this hell of a receiver, it wasn't the truth. They put him in there specifically at moments where they designed the play, get him the ball, and he would use his athletic ability and his speed to then break it open. Now, what he was and what I hope Travis Henry can be in the league when you're talking dual threat is a hell of a returner. Now, Prime, he was one of the best returners to ever do it. So if they ask him to do that while playing defensive back, or ask him to do that while they're transitioning him into being a wide receiver, then great. But don't ask this kid to play both sides of the ball and expect, the same from both. If you're drafting him number one, because if you draft him number one, again, if you tell him he has to play both sides, I want damn near 1,000-yard receiver, and I want you to be a shutdown corner on the other side.
615-737-1025. If you have thoughts on that, you can call us 737-1025. Our phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Coming up next, Elliot Friedman, Sportsnet insider, co-host of the 32 Thoughts podcast. We will talk Predators. We'll talk NHL. We'll talk a very, very, very interesting thing I heard yesterday on NHL Network. I would love to get Elliot's opinion on it. We'll do that next. Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 102.5, 106.3, The Game. D. Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios. Home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership where the buzz is always about great service. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, and Adam Vingan here with you. Joined on our phone line, driven by Wilson County Hyundai.com, by Elliot Freeman, Sportsnet's NHL insider, co-host of the 32 Thoughts podcast. Elliot, I would like to start with the team that you led off your column with yesterday, the Pittsburgh Penguins. As you write, the Penguins have let teams know that they are open for business. And we've already seen one trade, Lars Eller sent back to the Washington Capitals a couple of days ago. But of course, a lot of people are interested in the fates of Sidney Crosby, Kenny Malkin, Chris Letang, and Erik Karlsson. Your colleague, Kevin Weeks, at NHL Network during a segment had a very interesting idea. He wondered if Sidney Crosby and the Predators could be a match, depending on what Sidney Crosby decides to do. Now, Crosby just re-signed with the Penguins. He has a full no movement clause, if I'm not mistaken. So he has total control over his situation. But so this is a two-part question. First part.
You are not mistaken about that.
Okay, good to know. First part, what is your read on Sidney Crosby's take on what's going on with the Penguins? And if he were to exercise his no movement clause, or at least exercise that he would like to be moved, I should say, do you see a possibility where the Predators could be a team interested in Sidney Crosby's services?
Well, first of all, if he was available, I don't know who wouldn't be interested.
That is true.
Number two, if he went anywhere, I think Nathan McKinnon would be like, I think Nathan McKinnon would like kidnap Crosby and drag him to Colorado in his trunk. So like, I don't know that anybody else would put up a bigger fight to get him. You know, like, I think this, Adam, I really think if Sidney Crosby wanted to leave Pittsburgh, he wouldn't have signed the extension this offseason. You know, I think he wanted assurances that the team was going to try to compete as much as it could. And once he got that, he said, I'm in. And I do think it is important to him that he is a Penguin from beginning to end. The one thing I have always wondered about with him, Adam, is that during his time in Pittsburgh, and he's been there since the 05-06 season, they have never quit trying to win. It's never happened. They have never rebuilt. They have always moved forward, or at least tried to tread water. There are signs here that while they're not necessarily going to go rock bottom, they are prepared to wave the white flag on whatever it is they're doing now. And that is the one thing that he's never really had to deal with. And I don't think it would happen now. And I'm not even convinced it will happen. But if the losing, and if he ever gets to a point where he's like, because I think he always thought we can still make the playoffs, it's going to be really hard for them to make the playoffs, especially the way they've played. I think that if he ever thought that it's just the way it's going to be and they may not, quote unquote, you know, I don't even know if try to win is the right phrase, but I think if reality hits him in the face and he says, I don't know if I can handle this, that's the one thing I've always wondered about, but we're not there yet.
Over the weekend, the Predators waived Dante Fabro. He was claimed by the Columbus Blue Jackets. From what is your sense as to why it didn't cap space with the departure of Fabro? Could this be a precursor for a potential move for Barry Trotz?
Well, I think that I'll answer the second part of your question first. I think that everybody knows that Barry Trotz is trying to do things. It's no secret. He's told you, he's told others. You know, I think that, you know, if he could do something, he would have done it already. So the answer to your second part of your question, Adam, is an easy yes. Like, he is trying, and if he gets something he likes, he will do it. The thing about Fabro is it's amazing to me, Adam, you look back and, Charlie McAvoy in Boston's had a rough start to the season, but that's one of the best defensemen in the NHL. And they were drafted in the same draft. And there was a big debate at the time, who's better, Charlie McAvoy or Dante Fabro? And it was a fair debate. You could come up with either guy and you could make a convincing argument either way. He just didn't get to, where I mean, you guys see him more than I do. I would defer to you in ways as to why it happened, but he just never got to where people thought that he was. And, I don't know that it's the Predators. I don't know that it's, I mean, maybe he just wasn't what we thought. I don't know. But the fact is that him at that number scared a lot of people off. Columbus took the chance, but there weren't a lot of teams that didn't like that number tied to Fabro. A lot of teams that could afford, who could use a chance to give him another opportunity. And we'll see where it goes. He played just under 20 minutes in his first game. It was the most he played in 50 games going back to a year ago at this time. And we'll see where it goes. But unfortunately, he was such a highly regarded prospect at the time of his draft. It never got there.
We'll talk with Elliot Friedman, 32 Thoughts podcast. Now, Elliot, Monday, the Hockey Hall of Fame inducted their new members. Obviously, David Poile went in, but then Shea Weber goes in also. It's fitting that both of these guys go in at the same time, considering years ago what happened with the trade. And I'm sure Shea Weber wasn't happy about the trade. And I'm sure many Nashville fans were not happy with the trade, but I'm sure over the years, the fences have been mended. But what was the talk, knowing that from yourself or from your colleagues, knowing that Shea Weber and Poile were going in at the same time?
Well, first of all, Derek, I'd say they were both deserving. Like, they both deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. I don't think, sometimes people go into the Hall of Fame and people look at it like, what? That person got into the Hall of Fame? I don't think anybody was arguing about either case in this one. It's funny. Like, what's interesting about it, Derek, is that they both kind of made jokes about it, but they both kind of made it in that half joking way that it was kind of like, it's forgotten, but it's not forgotten. And the one thing is, you can see, like, when they talk about it, it's still a little bit raw. Not a lot, I think, but so there's one guy I know who knows Weber kind of well, one of his former teammates, and he just said, like one of the things that you can do is you can kind of bring it up like in a surface matter. But it was one time he was around when they started getting into the depth of it. And this was after it happened. They were playing together in Montreal at the time. And he said, you could tell, it bothered Weber. And when you go back, it's kind of interesting because we just had a situation here in Toronto where I live, where they just retired Vince Carter's number. Okay. And it was a beautiful ceremony, and, the Raptors did a great job with it, but there still are fans here who are like, I don't agree with this. And there are still fans here who think he owes them an apology for forcing his way out the way he did. And it's been a long time. It's been 20 plus years. And, people probably should move on, but it's sports and they don't. And, I think with Weber and Poile, well, they both moved on, both deserve to be there. If you really get down to the circumstances of that trade, I still think there are people who are bothered about the offer sheet. And I still think there are people who are bothered about that. There was a dinner the week before he got traded, and he felt he was told he'd never go anywhere. So I think for the most part, people move on, Derek. But if you really pick at the scab, there's still some pain there.
Well, I can understand because, me being let go in what was it, 04? Yes, I've gotten over it, but it's still like, if you want to deeply talk about it, it still sort of hurts that you didn't try to do whatever you needed to do to keep me, considering I hadn't even reached the top of my game yet. So I can understand when you say that. I can understand from an athlete's perspective. Yeah, you're right.
Like, it's funny, Derek, like when it was over, and I thought the speeches were really good. What really struck me was how nervous David Poile was. Like, you could tell, like, he was really struck by it. But someone said to me, like, they kind of poked at at the thing a little bit. You're like, yeah, whenever it comes up, it's still there. Like, it's, people have a lot of pride. There's no question about that.
I think you could do a full length story about that. There's no doubt. I would even wind it back one more chapter than you did, Elliot, and that would be the arbitration situation the year before the offer sheet. I think that probably started the ball rolling the wrong way.
That's a good point. Yeah.
It was unfortunate, I think, that it got to that point. But I think if you just back off of all the emotions and look at the net result of the trade, it was not a bad deal, really, for either team. I mean, the Predators got 3 great seasons from PK Subban, successful seasons. But no doubt, he did look like he was going to be a guy before he signed the offer sheet that would never not be a Predator. But I think the future, I don't know if you got this vibe, Elliot, but I feel like the future is bright in terms of Shea Weber someday realigning in some form or fashion with the organization, with Barry Trotz, and the respect he has for Barry Trotz.
I do believe that. I believe it's been discussed. I remember when Shea Weber came back for the outdoor game in Nashville, I got a call after that weekend from someone who said, "You watch. I don't know when and I don't know where, but Shea Weber's going to work for the Predators." And so that was a few years ago, and still, like, there was time remaining on his contract. And, the one thing is, like, I asked him when I saw him last week, I was like, what's keeping you busy right now? He joked, like, he's like a taxi driver. He's got his kids. He drives them around everywhere. He says, wherever they need to go, I take them, and I love it. And, so I think there's that. I think he enjoys being a dad, which is, for those of us who are fathers, it's the world's most important job. You got to do that right. And so I think there's a commitment to that. And, I think the other thing too is, you guys know Weber as well as I do. Like, if he's going to go into hockey operations, he's going to want to do it properly. And, that's a time commitment. I don't think it'll be like the time commitment that Barry Trotz has it, but I think he's going to want to do it right. And so, I think that between, like, his contract ending and being a father, like, it's going to set up. But like I said, this guy who's always right about everything, he told me the day will come. He believes that Weber and the Predators will have something going. But I'll tell you this, like, I could see other teams doing it too. Like, he said, his contract was owned by Vegas for a while. He had a little bit of work for them and he liked it. And I'm sure Montreal would like it, but, I know the Predators, when he came for the outdoor game, there was a bit of a thaw. Happily, they did talk to him about it and discuss it internally.
This is another thing to look for, Elliot. When the team gets back home, they're going to bring Shea Weber and David Poile to be honored by the fans. And David Poile has been honored a few times because in his retirement last year, that was a big thing to honor him, and they'll do it again. But the fans have really never gotten a chance to honor Shea Weber with the ovation and the accolades that I think he deserves because of all of what you just said, the drama and everything. And he came back for Pekka Rinne's retirement of his number, the statue and all that. And you could just sense that the fans want to reach out to Shea Weber so bad. He's been here a number of times, but they've never really had him in the spotlight. And as you know, he can't stand the spotlight. But I do think it's going to be a pretty special night a week from Saturday.
Well, I agree with that. And the next morning after the Hall of Fame inductions, I walked into the hotel where all the guests were staying, because I was going to a conference there, and I walked into David Poile, and he was standing there with Sean Henry, who I've met before, the CEO of the Predators, and Michelle Kennedy, who's the COO, and it was the first time I'd ever met her, although obviously I know who she is, but it was the first time I'd ever met her. And you could tell, like, they were beaming. Like, this was a big week for your team. Like, you know, we've talked about this before, how I think the NHL is a better place because Nashville's in it. But I think whenever you're a young franchise and you've only been around for, 25 years, like, you're still making your imprint on the league, right? So you get your first two Hall of Famers, your executive and your builder and your player. And like, it's massive. It's massive for them. And you could see how happy they were. And, I think the thing is, like, too, the funny thing about Weber is I have a question, Willie, I always ask players or anybody who goes into the Hall of Fame, like, what was the most meaningful compliment you ever received? And, like, he couldn't do it. He was like, I don't like compliments. And I'm cut from a similar cloth. I know exactly what he's referring to about there. But I was like, you can't even think of one. And he goes, no, I just hate them. So, like, it's going to be interesting to see Weber. You'd probably tell the entire crowd to sit down as they're giving him an ovation.
I think you're probably right. That doesn't surprise me at all to hear that when I read.
You know what's
quote.
really funny, Adam? Like, you're in there on a day-to-day basis. I can't remember who it was, but someone told me, like, they said that when Weber had one of his kids born, he, like, gave crap to a reporter who wrote about it. He's like, why do you have to write about that? That's my family.
If I recall correctly, how many children does he have? I don't remember off the top of my head.
I want to say 3, but don't quote me on that.
I'm not sure if I was here for when his first child was born, but I think maybe the second or third. And I remember the team was like, yeah, we're not giving you his name or when he was born. We're just telling you if it was a boy or a girl. Like, that was the only information that they would provide. But
he would go crazy about that. If someone wrote it, he was like, why do you have to write about that? And we did a piece, you may remember, on Hockey Night in Canada when he was named to the Olympic team. And we had to follow him around for a day. And David Poile and Barry Trotz convinced him he had to do it. He hated it, but he was great about it. Fantastic. I mean, as you guys know, he's just a tremendous human being, but he just does not like attention. Yeah.
The presence and respect he has is just cannot be beat for sure. Elliot, one non-Hall of Fame question here. With everybody together, the GMs and all the hockey people, I'm just curious if you had any new information on the Ryan Johansson situation, because as Adam asked you before, the Dante Fabro thing, the clearing of the salary cap space, and the fact that he had been basically passed up by Mark Del Gaizo in the present, that was really the motive. That was really the motive of doing it. But obviously, anything down the road with Johansson would be huge as well for flexibility.
Well, I should mention about Fabro too, is that I do think there were teams that were interested in trading for him, but not at the full money. Like, at the money, right. The salary slot was the thing, the 2.5. But you guys have 2 retained salary transactions, and the max is 3. And I think, and going back to last year when you guys went through this with Tyson Barrie, Barry Trotz had made it clear he was not interested in that. He did not want to lock up that last spot. So that did handcuff you a bit here. I think I mentioned it to you guys, and I know I wrote it last week, but there's 2 kinds of grievances between the league and the player can have. And that one is called an expedited grievance, and the other is called a non-expedited grievance. And an expedited grievance means it's of utmost priority and it needs to get sorted out right away. And that means they call a quicker process to it. And they didn't ask for that. They asked for the regular. So what that says to me is that the Predators shouldn't expect like a quick resolution on this, and that they should expect that the status quo was going to stay the same for a bit longer period of time because it's not an expedited grievance. And I'll say this, the other thing, like there was a time in the summer when like it looked like people were really questioning whether or not Johansson had a case. I'm not hearing that same thing anymore. Like I think it's a much more it's a much more challenging case in terms of now, like, but I heard there was a time in the summer where people were confident that Johansson was in trouble in this one. I don't hear it the same way now. So it's much less clear cut and it's going to be much more of a challenge. I think everybody wants a settlement and we'll see what happens, but it's not as cut and dried as I heard in the summer.
So I guess what I'm hearing you say, Elliot, is that the Predators really have no way of expediting it, right? Because
no,
I would think
they
if
do
you're
not.
Barry Trotz, you would at least love to know that by the time the weeks of the trade deadline talk, right, start leading up. So that would be huge information that you really need to have one way or the other by that time. But you don't really have a way of doing that, right? You're at the mercy of the league, is what I'm hearing you say?
Well, you're at the mercy of the kind of grievance they file. And they grieved it, but they didn't ask for it to happen faster.
Elliot Freeman, Sportsnet NHL insider, co-host of the 32 Thoughts podcast. Elliot, I know you just said you don't like compliments, but your insight is so invaluable. Another wonderful segment from you. Thank you so much for
ranking you
joining
ahead
us.
of Barry Trotz with the weekly
Yes.
hit. There's no question.
No,
we are.
well, that's the only thing that matters. Like that, I'm still the number one hockey hit on the station. Like Trotz does a great job when he breaks news, but he's always number two.
Well, Elliot, as always, a pleasure to chat. We'll catch up next week.
All right, guys, take care.
Yep.
Elliot Freeman joining us on the program. So my first question to Elliot, I referenced something I heard on NHL Network. I want you all to hear it if you didn't. So we're going to play that next. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 102.5, 106.3, The Game.
All right, Predators in action tonight against the Oilers. Big challenge. And we will have our coverage beginning at 7 o'clock Central Time tonight. Max Hers and Hal Gill will have the call on radio at 8 o'clock. And the sponsor, of course, League Company. It is outstanding what they do with your heating, cooling, plumbing, and electrical systems around your home. Also, keep this in mind, at home or at work. If you're sitting here listening right now and you're saying, you know what, I have had a maintenance problem that's been nagging. I've been meaning to get it fixed. I don't know who to call. Call League Company right now. They can do it at your business or at your home, regardless of what it is. General maintenance, they've got you covered. 615-567-1000 is the number. Pick up the phone and call them right now. Or if you'd rather make an online appointment, that's fine too. Just go to leaguecompany.com. That's 615-567-1000 or leaguecompany.com and get that heating unit checked. You don't want to be in the dead of winter and the heating unit is not running properly. It's League Company. They have been in business since 1944, and they are a big sponsor of Nashville Predators hockey.
going to put this out in TVville.
Sure.
Why not Sidney Crosby on Broadway?
Like
Why not?
I thought we were
That's a
talking
hot take.
Nashville.
Nashville.
I mean, there's Broadway in Nashville.
That's what I'm talking about.
Oh, okay.
There's a couple of Broadways.
They need a center.
Yeah.
They need a left-handed center.
Yeah. I think
Why
there's a
not?
few teams that would like 87, though,
Yeah,
right?
that's what. But why not? Like, to me, from a team and a fit and a need,
What would you have to give up to get them?
you can
city.
take Alan Jackson. You could take Burt Dirks Bentley.
Eric Church,
We
Luke
can give you
Combs.
Dolly Parton. We can give you all of them. Doesn't matter. And they're all legends too.
Wow.
But we're going to trade legends. No, honestly,
Yeah.
the way Nashville is now a contender based on the expectations and the move in the offseason.
If you're Sidney
the
Crosby, do
urgency's
you
there.
waive your no move to go to a team that is a potential playoff team? Or do you go to a team that you have a legitimate chance to chase a cup?
If I'm Sidney Crosby and Sid knows I love him, Nashville be right in and amongst the top opportunities. Because here's why. They have imagine him on that team. They need a left-hand center.
Mm-hmm.
So imagine him on that team with the personnel. Like, if you start looking, where else is he going to go that's going to potentially be a better fit?
That was Kevin Weeks on NHL Network last night. And I hate to break it to Kevin Weeks, but Dolly Parton has a full no movement clause. She is not going anywhere. You can have Dirks Bentley. You can have Alan Jackson.
You ain't getting Dolly.
Dolly.
Not my Dolly.
Dolly is staying. Dolly has a full no movement clause.
No trade clause for Dolly.
She ain't going nowhere. But I heard that last night. And man, when I heard that, I almost did the people's eyebrow, The Rock, the people's eyebrow. I can't actually do it, but when I heard it, I attempted to do it. Just the idea of not only Sidney Crosby being on a different team, but Kevin Weeks suggesting that Sidney Crosby and the Predators could be a match. Now, look, as Elliot said, Sidney Crosby, drafted by the Penguins, won multiple championships with the Penguins, just re-signed with the Penguins through 2027, has an $8.7 million cap hit, which he's played with throughout his career, except for his entry-level contract, 87, his number, by the way. Full no movement clause, all of that stuff. As great as it sounds, the idea of, can you imagine Sidney Crosby and Steven Stamkos playing on the same line? As great as that sounds, I know that Kevin Weeks was just trying to facilitate some conversation, but I have a very, very, very difficult time imagining Sidney Crosby going anywhere, let alone here.
Wouldn't they have to give up a haul to get him?
Absolutely. And Elliot,
So that would be sort of defeating the purpose, wouldn't it?
you have what, 3 first-round picks this season, right? Or not this season, but do you have Willie?
Yes.
Correct? They do have 3
They have
first-round
3.
picks. You might have
They
to.
have 3.
You might have to give up a couple of those.
You might have to give up all 3 of them. Yeah.
I do
Or
think that
2
that
in a
is the-
player.
Well, okay, let's go through the logistics of this. First of all, Kevin Weeks does do a lot of news breaking.
He
right?
does.
He delivers some scoops, but let's make sure we clarify what he was doing there was not a scoop. That was not, hey, I've been talking to insiders for the Preds and the Penguins, and they're talking about that. Sometimes I think a lot of people get confused when they see they might even see the tweet and they don't listen to what he's saying and they think he's reporting there's trade talks. There's not.
Elliot, by
Right,
the
we
way,
know-
has a term for this. It's called being radioed. That's what he calls it.
Yeah.
When he does a hit like he does with us, he does it on Sportsnet stations throughout Canada, and he'll say something in the middle of a longer answer. That part will be aggregated, and they'll say Elliot Friedman says this, even though that's not exactly what he said.
Yes.
Right. So let's just make sure that we know that is speculation and
Right.
not reporting. But let's go through the logistics of what it would take, right? And just say, does that make any sense? Because I agree with you, Adam, on the front end. I don't think Pittsburgh is going to want to do this unless it's absolutely a last resort. But for the Predators to even be interested, do they have the assets to trade? Yes. They have the 3 first-round picks. They have accumulated a lot of prospects. Pittsburgh has no prospects, right? As you heard Elliot say, since they got Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin and Chris Letang and the nucleus of a group that has won 3 Stanley Cups, and they've had an incredible run. It is at an end. I think they realize that. they have traded off a lot of prospects. They've spun around and tried to figure out how to patch up holes with veteran players. They haven't developed anybody. So the Predators have a lot of prospects that could probably help, give them a little bit of something to go on. They don't have the cap space to take on an $8.7 million contract. So there would have to be a pretty big salary on the way out.
Yes.
In order to facilitate something like that. But the biggest thing is, of course, you'd have to have Sidney Crosby saying, yeah, I want to go to Nashville. That's where I want to go. That's how something like that would get done. So the percentage chance of this happening is basically none. I don't think it's ever been talked about. You know what I mean? I don't think the Penguins and the Predators have ever even talked about this. I think this is just a brainstorm of Penguins being in the position where I think they've come to reality that it's not going to happen. And how do you start to rebuild your team? You see what kind of haul you could get for Sidney Crosby. And I think Kevin Weeks is looking around saying who needs a center and who has the assets that might be attractive to the Penguins. And I think the Predators check the box there. And they are trying to win the next 2 years with some aging superstars that are on the back nine of their career. But it's not reporting. Like I don't think they've even started to scratch the surface on.
No, it was purely speculation. If that, it was just facilitating a conversation during a segment on NHL Network. But to your point, Willie, Kevin Weeks is connected. He does break news. He was the first person, by the way, to get out into the world that Yaroslav Askarov had requested a trade from the Predators. So he does know things. He does talk to people.
But
go ahead, Derek.
No, I'm sorry. But and I'm asking both of you
Sure.
this question because he's been in the league, 16, 17 years, almost 20 years
Yes,
now.
almost 20 years.
What would be the benefit? Because getting him would mean getting rid of, draft picks, first round draft pick potentially, or a player, because like y'all said, a salary would come in, which means a big salary has to leave, or two. Would it even be beneficial to do that? Because it's not like he's a long-term fix.
I would say I would entertain this assuming it could happen, which I don't think right now, I don't think it would, but let's just say for the purpose of this argument, just like Kevin Weeks was doing on NHL Network, if the Predators were off to a hot start, if the Predators were off to a Winnipeg Jets-like start, by the way, the Jets are 15-1, best start in NHL history.
And
if the Predators,
like Cleveland Cavaliers,
yes, if the Predators were off to a Winnipeg Jets-like start, they have these older players and they're trying to really go all in, then you might push for something like that and say, F them picks and go for it. But the Predators, by the way, they are not first place in the league. They are last place in the league as they enter play today. So it seems too risky. Like even just on that idea alone, having to give up future assets for Sidney Crosby, who, by the way, is still an elite player in the NHL, even at, in his mid to late 30s. But I agree with Elliot. About
he's in his late 30s.
How old is he?
Okay. He's 37.
Okay.
38.
He's in his late mid 30s. How about that? He's in his late mid 30s. He's pushing 40. But Elliot did bring up something when I asked him that question. I really do think that if there was a team that Sidney Crosby would do this for, it's Colorado, because he has the connection with Nathan MacKinnon. They're both from Nova Scotia. I think there's always been this idea that maybe one day they could combine forces. The Avalanche have recently won. They're 9-8 on the season, but remember, they got off to a bad start too, like the Predators, but they've turned it around. And I feel like I agree with Elliot. Like I feel like Colorado might be the team at the front of the line for Crosby services if it did come to that, Willie.
But Colorado has nothing to trade, and that would be the problem on Pittsburgh's end. Is like, what are you going to give me? You're not going to trade me Mikko Rantanen. You're not going to trade me Cale Makar. They don't have any prospects. If you look at the prospect rankings, Colorado's down at the bottom along with Pittsburgh. So what I think Nashville could do, in theory, this may be where Kevin Weeks was speculating, is they have, if you look at Milwaukee's off to a good start. A lot of the recent first round picks, are shaping up pretty well. For example, we're going to talk on our broadcast tonight. Reed Schaefer, who was the principal prospect that the Predators got from Matthias Ekholm, he's made a jump. He looks very good. So they've got guys like that. Joachim Kimmel's looking pretty good. These guys are still very young. Fedor Svechkov, they've got a lot of guys who look like they're going to be good NHL players. Maybe not a superstar. You hope that somebody really hits, but they've got a lot of good prospects. Then you could put in a couple of first-round picks, and then you could take a player that still has some term on the contract, and you take a 2-year window with Sidney Crosby. So I agree. I think Nathan MacKinnon would certainly want to do it. But if I'm Kyle Dubas, the general manager for the Penguins, I'm saying, okay, that's fine. This sounds like a great story. But first of all, they've got to fit Sidney Crosby under the cap, which they would have trouble doing, the Avalanche. And you got to give them something back. I think the Predators could make it work a little bit easier. But again, I don't think this is going to happen. This is really fantasy hockey draft or fantasy hockey kind of talk to make it work. But it is a fun thought.
It is a fun thought to think of a forward line with Steven Stamkos on the wing and Sidney Crosby at center. It's like an Olympic team, basically. But when I heard it, I thought it was I got a chuckle out of it, and I have a hard time imagining Sidney Crosby playing anywhere else. I mean, he's poured his heart and soul into that organization. He was the number 1 pick in the draft. He's been playing for that organization for 20 years. He's won countless awards. He's won multiple championships. He seems like the type of guy who would want to spend his entire career in one place. And like Elliot said, if he didn't want to stay in Pittsburgh, he would not have re-signed with the Penguins. So it is a fun exercise, but I think we could probably stow this one away. But if at some point the Predators do trade for Sidney Crosby, do not play back this entire segment. 615-737-1025. Willie was not here for Silly Underdog Picks, but as the commissioner, I would love to get his thoughts on our picks for this week, and we'll wrap up the show next. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025, 1063, The Game.
All right, let's talk about our friends at Loan Pronto. Again, their program, it's called the Rapid Equity Loan. AI-driven tech. It gets you approved for cash. Oh, excuse me. That's called live radio, people. A sneeze hit me here in Edmonton. But anyway, let's get back to Loan Pronto. Rapid Equity Loan. AI-driven tech. It gets you approved for cash out in as little as 1 day. So they've sped it up even more how quick you can get cash from your home's equity and wipe out your debt, credit card bills. Maybe you need cash for a home improvement project. Maybe you want to pay off a car loan. And you can do this with better mortgage rates because the mortgage rates are down, and it's saving up to $1,000 a month in a lot of cases. It's all case-by-case basis, but Loan Pronto will do a great job for you. Instant approvals, low fixed rates, fast transfers. Call Loan Pronto now and see how much you qualify for. 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780, or go to loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781 on approved credit, NMLSconsumeraccess.org.
D-Mace, Vingadonic, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Stillman and Company coming up next. Predators are back in action tonight at the Edmonton Oilers, the first part of a back-to-back. They're in Calgary tomorrow. Game starts at 8, pregame at 7, right here on 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Willie, you were doing your Predators broadcasting responsibilities during Silly Underdog Picks. I thought I held down the interim commissioner role quite
Very
well.
nice.
Not as good as you, but I thought I did okay. I did send you all of our selections so that you could put them down in the scrolls. What are your thoughts
They
on
are
our
scrolls.
choices this week?
Well, the scrolls definitely have these down and documented. It's a good race right now. I think you have still enough games where all of you, if you just got 2 or 3 good ones here, you could put yourself in position for the bowl game draft where you have 3 opportunities to win. And it's totally crazy at bowl time, as you guys know, because you never know who's going to opt out last minute, things like that. So I think it's a fun competition. Just from, the week to week thing, you guys all took some games that probably don't have a huge piece of the national picture very much. But, Boise State's an interesting one to watch, right? You guys, Adam, you're picking against Boise State.
Indeed.
Boise State's very much in the playoff picture, right? They're a team to watch, and they cannot afford to slip up. And I always find late in the season, teams that are in playoff contention, they feel the pressure, especially if it's not a team that's used to being there year in and year out. And Boise State, I think, would fit that bill. And so I do think sometimes you can be susceptible to big upsets.
I like that. As I said last week, when you go to a restaurant and you place your order and the server says, excellent choice, or that's my favorite dish on the menu. You feel better about yourself, other than when, you place an order and the server just goes, okay, I'll be back. So Willie telling me that he thinks my pick is interesting makes me feel good.
My theory
interesting may not be a good thing.
I'm in last place in our Take It to the Bank, but I did get one right last week with that principle I just pointed out. I thought Miami played like a team that was feeling a little pressure and got beat by Georgia Tech. And I think, too, there's nobody that's a super powerhouse, right? It's harder and harder to just overpower teams week in and week out. There's more parity. There's more, reorganizing of rosters, which I think evens up the talent level a little bit more. So I think, big upsets are more likely to happen that way.
So the people, represented by Steven, took Louisiana Monroe.
Why?
Over Auburn.
Why did it go that big?
He said that UL Monroe, it has, what are they? They're like, they've won 70
Against the spread.
Against their spread. They've won 75% of the time. I can't recall. Steven sounded like a seasoned better.
I see.
But
I got to win outright.
Right. Well, I didn't. Maybe I hope he knew that.
Yeah.
But either way, I did say, like, so last week our friend Mark won because he picked Ole Miss to beat Georgia. And Willie, we've talked about this in the competition. Sometimes the people go with a small underdog to increase their chances of winning the prize, while others swing for the fences. So I as interim commissioner, made the executive ruling that if Steven is correct and UL Monroe, who again is a 24-point underdog against Auburn, wins, that Chris Sanders has to participate in a polar plunge in addition to Steven winning the tickets to Yacht Rock Review at the Ryman. So I made that executive decision.
Well, and that also would put the people in the lead potentially if Chris does not win his pick with Stanford over Louisville. So I wonder what can we give the people if the people win the whole thing?
That's a good
Man,
question.
we got to come up with something. We got to come up with something to win the whole thing. Yeah.
Chris Sanders will have to do 2 polar plunges.
Perhaps.
In the Cumberland.
That could be dangerous.
Very.
All the competitors could do the polar plunge. How about that?
I guess if the people do win, maybe all of us will.
win.
I mean, that's not a bad idea, actually.
Hey, I'm telling y'all right now, no way. Or should I put it like this? Hex to the no.
I'll take you down with me.
Nah, bro.
I know you've been tackled by people much bigger and stronger than me, but I'll take you down if it means a polar plunge. That's actually not a terrible idea.
If
but
it was a warm plunge, then yeah. But a polar plunge, nah, not doing
But that would not be a punishment.
it. To me, it would be.
Oh man,
I'm not the lake person. I'm not. I like to look at the lake, but I don't want to go in the lake. Just because I just don't. That's not my cup of tea.
we do have an intriguing Thursday night football game. Very quickly, Commanders at Eagles. First place in the NFC East on the line. The 7-3 Commanders at the 7-2 Eagles. Any quick thoughts on this game tonight?
I think the Eagles are starting to get healthy now, and they can make a run. Washington is a great story. Daniels is playing pretty good, but I would just go with the more seasoned and the team that is getting the healthiest. And to have AJ back, and I'm not sure if Devontae Smith is back or not. I think he is, but to have their trio of wide receivers back going for them, they needed it going against Washington.
It's always good when we get a good Thursday night game, Willie.
Yeah, it does look like, and I hope there's a good Thursday night game here at Edmonton. So let me just throw that out there. But,
Yes.
I do think it feels like the Eagles are over whatever hit them at the end of last season and had them questioning every single thing that they were doing, even though, for a year and a half, they were about as powerful as any franchise. So it's 7-2. And then I think that's the number one thing I'm looking for. As you get everybody's attention, which Washington has done, now the stakes are higher. This is a great opportunity for them to show the league that, yes, they are for real.
Willie, good luck on the call tonight. Predators at Oilers. Remember, you owe me a wet Willie for Chris Mason for skipping out on this yesterday. I will be watching intently. I will be texting you. I want to see it. Predators at Oilers. Puck drop at 8. Pregame at 7 right here on 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Stillman and Company coming up next.
Be love.